Flutist Isabelle Chapuis shares with us the legacy of her studies with the great masters Marcel Moyse, Gaston Prunel, Michel Debos, Jean-Pierre Rampal, and others. She tells us what she learned from those masters and how she applies it in her own teaching today, with invaluable tips on expression, practicing, orchestral playing, and much more.
I was born in Burgundy. My mother was a pianist. She studied with Edgar Varèse. When she arrived in France, it's because she met my father, who was a doctor, and they moved to Dijon. So then my mother's parents knew Michel Debos's parents. So Michel, when I was 3 years old, was at my house, came with his bicycle, and he would be learning the flute and all this. He was young. I met Michel when I was a child. And my mother wanted me to play music because I was a dreamer and an artist. And she said, you need to do this. So she said, I don't know, piano was not my thing. I am too much of a people person. I need to be with people. So she said, the flute is the one that looks nicest for a woman. She says, I don't want you to play trumpet, trombone, or no. Flute. Okay. So Michel said, well, there is a woman here in Dijon. She can start her. So I started with Maryse Gaussy. And Maryse then was friends with Prunel. And Gaston came to visit her, and she says, oh, I have a young student, was playing for a year. I'd like you to hear. And he listened to me, and he said, I'll take her in Paris. And my mother said, okay, we're going to go to Paris every week to get a lesson. And so that's what I did. My mother took the train 3.5 hours to go to Paris, study with Gaston. Then I had solfège with Jacqueline Lequien. So that was my regimen with Gaston. Michel heard me and he said, you really need to take lessons with someone else instead of Prunel because your vibrato is too fast. I was used to that kind of vibrato, like Edith Piaf, it was the time where the vibrato was. Michel said, well, no, I can't give you lesson. I know you too well. So my father said, Michel, you take responsibility. You said that. I want you to give her lessons. So I started taking lessons with Michel. Michel said, I want you to come with me to meet Marcel, because I'm taking lessons. I'm going to play Danse de la Chèvre with him, for him next week. Marcel. He was sitting in his wicker chair. I have a picture, as a matter of fact. Oh, I want to show you. He turns and says, "So who is next?" This is when I said, me. And I played. And I thought, oh my God, what he's going to shred me. No, he was very nice. But anyway, I was raised by men flutists that were strong, and it made me very strong. Like, I can resist because, I mean, all these men were so famous and strong and all this. Anyway, so yes, I took those lessons. And then what Crunel and Marcel Moyse taught me were the basics that are so important, that the rhythm, um, the singing, because they were in opera.
Tell me about that. How did they teach you the singing, and what was that like?
Oh, well, by singing, because in France we sing the solfège. I'm always singing it for my students. It's in the natural way. So Marcel always sang, and he sang with looking in the sky. He was just so enamored with the melodies, and it was very poetic and moving. So you listen to that, and then he talked a lot about opera. And Gaston was à l'Opéra Comique, and he said, "Isabelle, I hope one day you play Carmen. That's one of the best scores with flute and all this." And I did. Because I played 40 years in the opera here. And for the first time I sat the opera, I had a feeling for him. I thought, oh, my teachers, you taught me this. If you could see me there now. Thank you. They live with me. I have their pictures everywhere in my studio. I have everybody here. I love my teachers.
Moyse had studied with Toffanel.
Yes.
And Toffanel was principal conductor of the Paris Opera. Do you think there's an influence?
Singing was it. You're the flutist. You have a voice. It's natural. That's what you do. So yes, I learned a lot about the singing, and because of solfège that we have in France, we can sing anything. And he says, well, sing it, not play it. Don't be a prisoner of your flute. And as a matter of fact, when you came with a flute to see Marcel, I said, oh, look at my flute. He said, I don't want to know what flute you play. It's the man behind the flute that counts.
Wow.
Not the women, because they were all men, It's the man behind the flute that counts. Wow. And then he would show his quenon that was absolutely awful looking. Nobody would play a flute like this now. The quenon. Did you ever see his flute?
I've seen pictures.
Oh, well, I played it. It had plateaus that were thick like this. Let's see, maybe thick like that. No holes. Plateau.
Mm-hmm.
Soldered because there's a hole in there. It was ugly. But who cared? The voice came from here.
Yeah.
And so he says, don't show me your flutes. I don't care. It's all about who is behind the flute. So
Wow.
that was also a very interesting lesson, is that you can't wait for the special flute to sound great.
Which is very much like a singer. They have to rely on what they're born with, no matter what.
That's it. That's it. So that was a really important lesson. Yes, so Michel would take me to his flute lessons. And I looked at Michel. He was first in the Orchestre de Paris. I'm thinking, wait, he's the hero and he's taking lessons? That's amazing. So here I am, 15. This is in Bosville. So he would teach Michel, and I was fascinated to hear that someone as great as Michel could still learn. That was another lesson, that it's never, ever done.
No.
You can always be open to other ideas. It's constant. If you're set, and then Rampal came and he would say, music is not dusty. It means it should live with everybody. There's not one way. I love that too. So all the teachers I had were totally extroverted and had great stories, life stories. They loved life, and music was an extension. And that's how it's been for me the rest of my life.
That's fantastic. It's so exciting that after that training as a singer flutist, that you then became principal with an opera company.
This is what I wanted. I thought, I have to sing. I have to do something with this, express something. Not just the notes, but do something with the music. Yes, I met Irene Dallas, who was famous. She was at San Jose State because she was from San Jose. She returned there as she finished her career, and she created Opera San Jose. And I was there, and she said, I want you to play. So I got in without an audition, and I sat there, and I stayed there 40 years. I had to retire 4 years ago. I lost my hearing on one side completely.
How was that? From a lot of orchestral playing, or was it just?
I think so. Do you think that any one of my teachers told me to wear earplugs? It didn't exist. We didn't have that. So I played in the pit orchestra for 40 years, all these big operas, with the sound of trombones and trumpets and all this behind, and it damaged my ear and it killed the nerve. So there's no possible hearing aid, nothing. I can't do any. The sound is different when you have only one ear. The other ear compensates so much, it tires you.
Are you telling your students now to wear an earplug when they are playing?
Oh, yes. What did I love the most with Marcel was the tone development through interpretation. We spent a lot of time on that one, where he was making you understand the singing, and what was on the page was only a direction of how to play, but then get out of the page and start singing, because there are all sorts of opera in there.
Right.
So that's how I learned a lot of this expression of freedom within a frame.
Did he ever use the words of the arias to help guide you? Or?
No, he would tell the story. She's dying here. He's going to kill her there or something. So you have to find drama. yeah, later, of course, that's what I did to relate to it. It's much easier when you have words. It emphasizes what you're going to do.
Right.
So, and I teach that to my students. I said, right here, Carmen is flirtatious, so you have to play that way. I mean, that's really what I learned from Marcel. Crunel was more exact, everything perfect. How to practice. I use it every day of my life. You have a problem, you don't play the whole phrase. You go zoom. You go those three notes, and you make sure it's there, and you cement, and then you try it in few notes with it, and then you try the phrase, and then you try the whole thing and see if it's still there. But they were funny too, all my teachers. They were telling stories, they were laughing, they loved life. That's what I found. They loved life.
So it sounds like Clunel was very detail oriented and almost
very
perfectionist. Were the others like this, Moyse and Debos, or were they?
No, so Moyse was more like, well, I mean, I have all his exercises written by hand. I mean, so many. He did so many things. It's amazing how he wrote everything by hand. So Moyse was very into details too. But when I came to him, I guess I was already doing enough with Crunel that I had the basics, so he could embroider in style. Michel brought colors because I think Moyse was not in charm, and Crunel either. They were more into phrasing and all that. But suddenly, Michel comes with all sorts of vowels, colors, again, like singers, with vowels, using vowels a lot. And so that opened, and changes of vibrato. No vibrato, added, like he'd say, like salt, don't use it all the time. So that was Michel. Then I made it to the Conservatoire in Paris with Crunel, and Crunel retired. And then who came? Jean-Pierre. He came at the right time because I was formed the right way because of all these great teachers. And suddenly you have Mr. Charismatic, daring, very supportive, very nice always with the students, and wanting some things, but not in a mean way. He was, well, we were in awe. That's it. I went to Bosville, and then I had friends that went with me. And so now that's a great story. Bosville, we're in that church where he's sitting on his wicker chair with a pipe and the beret, and suddenly it's his birthday, and suddenly someone comes, and it's James Galway. He comes and he says, Marcel, he's very, we were always saying maître to Marcel, maître. And he taps him on the shoulders. And I think, whoa, who is that? And someone says, this is James Galway. He's really great. Okay. So he played. He filled that room with this incredible sound. I think he played Carmen. I don't know. I forgot. We were like mouth open. Believe me, we were like, okay, this is another amazing person we can listen to. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have any of this. We had to buy the recordings and all this.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, Marcel gave me these recordings. I have all these LPs with him signed. Yeah, and it's fabulous to hear him. And they smell good too. They smell old. So
what's your favorite recording of him?
Well, I love to hear him how to practice studies. I find it fascinating because I insist always on teaching studies. I said, etudes are not the pill that you have to take. It's music. And if you can make music out of those 2 pages that look like a forest of notes and you can figure it out, you're a musician. So that's what I learned from him. And he does that really well. Well, the way he plays Tulu and all these things, De Mersman, all that.
What was it like to hear Moyse and Rampal? You told us Galway and DeBose, to actually hear all these people in person. Like, what was your first reaction to hearing Moyse play for you, for instance?
Well, I loved all of them. I feel that there's not one way in life to be. And it opens your mind to hear different interpretations, different sounds, different ideas. It makes you a better artist because then when you are in orchestra and the conductor says, no, I want it this way, well, you can just do it. You're flexible. If you're not flexible, then so knowing all these different ways opened my mind. And we were raised at the Paris Conservatory in a class of 17. And we played the same etudes, same pieces. We had 12 hours a week, of course, with Rampal or Crunel. That was a lot. Three times a week, 4 hours at the time. So in 4 hours, Crunel or Rampal would say, tiens, Isabelle, play that piece. And we all played the same piece. So it means you become a really good friend with everyone. Because next time you're the one playing, and if you make a mistake, you want support. So that's also, for me, was an incredible training where you don't judge your friends because you support your friends, you help your friends, you play with your friends, they listen to you, you listen to them. It's the community instead of being, well, I play better, look at me. No, that did not exist. Then you had Marcel with his collection of pipes. He had a big collection on his wall, but he was always smoking, always. And he would make jokes playing the flute with the pipe on the side. They were jokers all the time. which made it, they were extremely severe in their way of wanting something, like you're going to get this, but they also had the other side that were so human. What I loved when I saw Moyse sing is that he was illuminated by the music. You could see his eyes. He would just see. You know this exercise? I think it's Oberon. Yeah, Weber.
Mm-hmm.
That was. Was a favorite of his.
Oh.
And then he taught me that one a lot. For no vibrato, that was Michel. No vibrato. Then Moyse, yes. All those teachers made me who I am. And I think this is what I said to my students. They take lessons with me for 4 years, 5 years, and then they're gone. And I say, it's good to listen to different people, to try different things, because then you will be a sum of all of them. And they're all treasures, all of them. That's how I feel. I feel very lucky that I was at that time when I studied with all these the greatest. Yes.